Hey, folks, welcome to the Two Mix. We have got a lot to talk about today. We're going to talk about, of course, football this weekend and then next weekend. We also have a little basketball we're going to talk about, and then, of course, golf. We got a pretty good golf tournament going in the United States this weekend. And I want to start off with some breaking news, something that surprised me. Bruce Pearl, Mike, announced his retirement from Auburn.
Yeah, definitely a big surprise to me. I did not see that one coming at all. And of course, obviously, I got some ties to Auburn with my son being down there, and it was something that took me definitely by surprise. But Bruce Pearl's been around for a long time, Jimmy. He's 65 years old at this point, and I think he probably kind of positioned himself. He probably knew he was going to retire at the end of last season, but I think he wanted his son to have the job, and also,
Steve Pearl's going to
yeah,
be taking over the program.
and not only that, but probably a good thing in terms of, if he would have retired right at the end of the school year last year, then he probably would have lost a lot of his recruits, kind of put the new coach behind the eight ball. So
And
I hope his son does great.
and well, Steve Pearl's been in the program for a pretty good while, and Bruce Pearl, he took Auburn to two Final Fours. They're only two Final Fours they've ever been to. He won SEC tournament a couple of times and also won the regular season championship. And rumor has it, Mike, that Bruce Pearl may go into politics. He may run for
Maybe.
senator in Alabama. And folks, this is nothing out of the realm because this happens a lot with sports figures. I'll name you a few. You can look them up. There's plenty of sports figures. But Jack Kemp, who played for the Buffalo Bills, he also played for the Chargers. He was a representative from his state. Jim Bunning from Kentucky played 17 years in Major League Baseball and was a representative, Kentucky representative,
Yeah,
Kentucky senator from the state of Kentucky.
for a long time.
Yes,
For a really
Bill
long time.
Bradley. Bill Bradley used to play for the Knicks, was a representative from New Jersey. Jesse Ventura,
The body.
the body Ventura. He ran for governor of Minnesota and won. Everybody thought it was a joke, but he won.
I remember when he would come out and he had those big feather scarves on.
Yep. And
People hated him.
Steve Largent, another football player, ran for a representative from his home state. And then we had two people that became presidents. One of them was Eisenhower. Eisenhower played at West Point. He played football. He was in the fencing team. He was on the track
The
team.
fencing team.
Yes, he
Are we going
did.
to talk fencing tonight, Jimmy?
We just did, but we're not going to talk about it anymore.
You never know with us. We might talk about fencing at some
Well,
point.
the only thing
We
I know,
talk pickleball.
the
so-
only thing I know about fencing is a white picket fence that you got to use white paint on.
Well.
But Eisenhower became president. Everybody knows that. And then Gerald Ford played at Michigan, and he ended up being president. So Bruce Pearl may be making a good choice there.
Well,
if that's what he wants to do.
The funny thing is that Bruce Pearl, I went to the University of Evansville in Indiana, and he was the coach at USI when I was there. Of course, he was very young then.
Yes.
And he was up and coming, and man, he was as fiery then as he is now. I remember the first time that funny thing is when I went to the SEC tournament when he first took over to Auburn, and I was with Spencer, and they were horrible. They were like the very low seed, and we moved down after the Kentucky game, and I can't remember who Auburn was playing, but Bruce Pearl was the coach. I think it was his first year, and he was a nutball on the sideline, an absolute nutball. And me and Spencer were laughing at him, and then where Spencer ended up going to school there, so kind of an interesting tie. But yeah, best of luck to Bruce Pearl in his retirement. I hope, obviously, that that his son does well there, and I've got some my heart is into the Auburn program. They're right behind Kentucky for me at this point. But
I understand that. Yeah. And then in NBA news, we had an injury. Fred VanVleet tore his ACL. He's going to be out for the rest of the year. He plays for the Houston Rockets. And why are we mentioning this? Because Reed Shepherd, who played for Kentucky, will take over the starting position at the Rockets. And Reed Shepherd, folks, if you never got to see this kid play, he can hit the three, and he's quick. People don't realize how quick he is.
Well, he's very fundamental. He's got
Yes.
he's a better athlete than people give him credit for. But I really wish he would have stayed one more year and played 1 year under Pope last year. I really think that he would have been dynamic and could have possibly been the player of the year in college basketball in Pope's system. But you can't blame the kid for being a lottery pick and going. And I think it says a lot about Reed Sheppard is that he didn't play. In fact, he even got shipped down to the G League, went down to the G League for a few weeks and averaged like 40-something points a game.
They brought it.
Whereas I think a lot of players would have just pouted and been like, oh, I think that Reed Sheppard is going to do really well. And, I hate that for Van Fleet. Obviously, you don't ever want any player to get injured. But I do think that he'll do really well. And, best of luck to Reed Sheppard, obviously.
And then Oklahoma State in football, they let their coach go, Gundy, after how many years, Mike? 21?
21 years. And, I think, I talked about this a little bit. I'm not surprised that they let him go, but I'm a little surprised they let him go in the middle of the season. To me, a coach like that's put that much in the program and has had a lot of success there too, Jimmy.
Yeah.
I mean, had a lot of success. To me, he deserves to get to at least finish out the season. But you never know what goes on behind closed doors. And there's a lot of these coaches. Dabo Swinney's one of them too, right now, that had a lot of success before NIL and they have not adjusted well. And right now, I
think Dabo's going to be all right, although he is having a rough year. They're 1-3 right now after losing this week.
I think Dabo, regardless of how the rest of the season shakes out, I think Dabo is going to step down. And, he'll get opportunities other places, or he may just decide to step away for a while and recharge. And,
I think he'll stay unless they don't. And then also, guys, we got this little game where you hit a white golf ball with a crooked stick. It's called golf. And they are playing the Ryder Cup, USA versus Europe. It's played at Bethpage, the black course, up in Farmingdale, New York. And, Mike, I am looking forward to it. I love the Ryder Cup every year or every other year. They only play it every 2 years.
They do, yeah.
But I think the United States is going to win, which I think that even when they go over to Europe. But I do think they're going to win.
Well, I had the pleasure of going to the Ryder Cup. I'm not as big a golf fan as you, but I had the pleasure of going when I was in Valhalla several years ago, and it was definitely something that was very unique. I've been to other PGA events. I've been to the PGA Championship at Valhalla, and the players are just much more relaxed, and they just have a lot more fun, and they interact with the crowd a lot more. It's just really weird to see them out there doing the match play too, and
Did you see Boo Weegley ride the horse down the fairway?
I did. Yes, I did. Yeah,
that was great.
Yeah, but that was definitely if you get a chance ever to go to a Ryder, even if you're not a huge golf fan, it's definitely a very unique experience, and you should go check it out.
But if you look at the United States team versus Europe team, if you go by world rankings, and I'm talking about world, this is how I think it's 8 of them or 9 of them. This is how the United States players, how they're ranked. Number 1 is Scotty Scheffler, of course. Then we have the number 3, 4, 5, 6, 8, 10, and 11 worldwide. The European side, they've got the number 2, which is Rory. Then they got 7, 9, 12, 14, 15, 16, and 18. So on paper, the United States looks superior. And the Europeans have a player that's ranked 73rd in the world rankings. He was a captain's pick, and I'll be honest, if I was Luke Donald, I would have picked him too, and that's John Rahm. I don't think you can go wrong with John Rahm.
Hey, you got to have your little John Rahm in life.
Yeah, and our lowest ranked player is 23rd. They've got a 73, a 25, 24, and a 58th world ranked player. So on paper, it looks like the United States should win, but it'll be. I hope it's not a blowout. I hope it goes down to the last day where they play singles, one player against the other player, and I hope it comes down to like.
And it usually does.
Like the last 3 players, and then that third player gets in and he wins it for America, and then those other 2 players can come on in.
Because I saw where they were talking about it. Technically, it could be over Sunday morning, if I guess however it plays out. I don't know as much about
Yeah.
it as you do, but it could be over Sunday morning, or
Well,
it might be Sunday evening before it's
They'll
over.
start out with foursomes and then four ball, and they'll do that for 2 days, and then singles on Sunday.
Of course, the original Ryder Cup wasn't it? It was just the United States versus England, right?
Yes, Great Britain.
Yeah.
Yes, and and I think that was 1922.
Now think about how big of an undertaking that was, because back then, I mean, obviously transportation, you couldn't just fly across the ocean back then. You had to take a steamliner and go across the ocean. So, that's back then. That was a big
Well,
undertaking.
they may have gone over there and played and then stayed there for a couple of years.
Oh,
Who knows?
You never know. Yeah, they could have. Who knows? So.
And what do you think about the games this weekend? I know you did not like the Auburn-Oklahoma game.
Well, yeah, switching gears to football this past weekend, the few games that stood out. The Auburn-Oklahoma game was a great game. Obviously, I had a vested interest in it. But, the one thing that really bothered me about that game was there was a couple of very controversial calls that, not necessarily saying that Auburn would have definitely won the game, but it definitely did not help them. One of them was they had the kind of the sneaky play where the receiver acted like he was going off to the sideline, and then he just kind of came off of the sideline. I don't think he ever fully went off, but they said that, the SEC came out the next day and said that it should have been a penalty, and they got an easy touchdown off that. Then there was also a call at the beginning of the game where it was very close. They called it a fumble on the field, and Auburn recovered it and ran it back for a touchdown. And when they reviewed it, they reversed it. And I was under the impression, there has to be conclusive evidence. And if it would have been a call in the field where they called it incomplete or down, I would have been fine with them not overturning it. But, I just thought it was too close to really have conclusive evidence. But, home cooking there, Jimmy, at Sooner Stadium. So, but, congratulations, Oklahoma. They ended up winning. It's a big win for them.
They won, and then they lost also. Their quarterback, Matler, broke his hand, and he's going to be out at least 4 weeks. Now, he was the Heisman Trophy winner front runner, and he contributed 82% of the offense to Oklahoma. Now, he's going to be out 4 weeks. The only good thing for Oklahoma is they have a bye week this week. Then they play Kent State, and then I think they play South Carolina. And I've told you at the beginning, Oklahoma is my sleeper team.
Mm-hmm.
And if they can hold ship till he comes back, I think they'll be all right.
Well, I know they still got to play Texas, and I can't remember who else, but I do know that overall their SEC schedule, even though it's still hard, is not quite as rough as some of the other teams. But it's Oklahoma's definitely in the mix. And, they came in now and they're ranked 7th. And, the other thing with the big thing from the weekend was, IU, man, they laid it to Illinois. And
63-10, I believe.
Something like that. Yeah. I mean, and, the question comes back to, do you start taking Indiana serious again? And like last year, of course, they didn't play a very tough schedule. At least this year, they do play at Penn State. They play at Oregon. They don't play Ohio State this year.
They got a tough game coming up this weekend. They play Iowa.
They better be careful with the Hawkeyes because they could be riding in on a high. And Iowa's very good defensively, playing out there. The Hawkeyes are always a solid team, and they're a tough out. And I've seen them a couple times against Kentucky in bowl games, and they're very fundamentally sound. They always play stingy defense. So that could be a dangerous game for them. But I'll be honest with you, I really thought Illinois would be a dangerous game for them, and it was not even a game at all.
I even picked Illinois in that game.
I did pick Illinois.
And you talked about Oklahoma moving up and everything. Mike, go ahead and give us our top 10 this week.
Well, in terms of, there wasn't a whole lot of shakeup. Miami did jump up to 2, and then there's Penn State. Again, I've kind of gotten on Penn State a little bit, and they could very easily be one of the best teams in the country, but they played absolutely nobody the first 3 weeks.
No, they haven't.
I think if you're a major school like that and you're wanting to win national championships, you ought to step out of conference at least one time and play a tough opponent, and they don't play anybody out of conference that's any good. But, that's just my opinion. And, and kind of going back to the fact here that, like Auburn, Auburn was ranked. They dropped out of the top 25 and basically was a play away from beating Oklahoma, a top 10 team at Oklahoma. To me, I don't feel like they should deserve to drop. I can guarantee you that if Penn State was playing at Oklahoma, I wouldn't pick Penn State. I'd pick Oklahoma. And, so I just have a real problem with these teams that are sitting there and played nobody and are still up there. But, that's just the way it is. And then LSU and Georgia 4 and 5, that stayed about the same. Oklahoma at 6, Oregon at 6. I'm sorry, and then Oklahoma jumped up some to 7, and Texas is the dropper. Texas dropped down to 10th because they just have not looked very solid, Jimmy.
No, the crowd booed Archie Manning, but he took it well. I think that kid's going to be good. I think he's going to be all right, but there was too much hype on him. Main part of it was because of his name, but also he's a good player. I saw him fourth quarter of the Ohio State game, and he played lights out. First 3 quarters, he looked like a Kentucky quarterback.
I think, I really haven't been able to watch their other games very closely, but I did say something about this in week 1 about I don't think that Sarkisian is really calling to his strengths. I think that they need to run more RPO action with him, let him use his legs, let him, roll out. And, I just, but he's definitely not been as accurate as I thought he would be. But, he's still got a lot of big games left, and, they can still make a lot of noise, and they're not out of it. But he's going to have to start playing better because he's not going to be able to play like he has the first 3 games and beat some of these strong SEC teams. He's definitely not going to, Texas and Oklahoma, I think, play here in just a few weeks, don't they? Yeah, they usually play right about the 5th or 6th game.
Yeah, it's coming up. But anyway, looking ahead to this week, Mike, what do you think?
Well, I mean, if you're a college football fan, this weekend is just like heaven because you have got big matchup after big matchup and a lot of great games. The kind of the ones that stick out at noon starting out. Probably the least exciting games of all start at noon. You got USC playing at Illinois. Can Illinois bounce back? 2 ranked teams. I think that, man, it's hard to pick Illinois after the way they looked last week.
I'm going to take Illinois. I think that coach, he's got a lot of fire underneath him, and I think he's going to get on his team. I think Illinois will beat USC.
Well, I'm going to pick USC in that game. I don't know. I just think that they just did not impress. But, who knows? They could bounce back. Then another game at noon, not necessarily a big ranked matchup, but kind of an interesting matchup is Notre Dame at Arkansas.
No, Arkansas came off a disastrous defeat
18 points. They were up 18 points in the 4th quarter at Memphis and blew it. I mean, just blew the lead.
I'm going to take Notre Dame in that game.
I think you got to take Notre Dame, but I'm telling you, Arkansas is good. And playing at Arkansas, they'll be doing them pig sueys all over the place.
They will be doing that.
And, I mean, here, and here's again is Notre Dame has played a tough out-of-conference schedule. I mean, this is their second SEC
but they
team.
lost both games.
They did, but they lost both of them. Literally, one play on both of those games, they could be 3-0 right now.
Lost, if you look at it, they lost to Miami, who's ranked number 2, and they lost
Miami on the last play of the game.
And then they lost to Texas A&M by 1 point, who's now ranked in the top 10.
I mean, and so that's where I have a problem. I mean, Notre Dame, has played 2 really, and then they're going on the road and playing at Arkansas out of conference again. And, so I don't know. I just, that's going to be, I do think Notre Dame will win, but, they're going to have to play well. They're not going to be able to just show up.
And we have U of L at Pitt. Now.
At noon. Cards finally play somebody, Jimmy.
And I hate to
somebody decent at least.
I hate to say it, but I got to go for Pitt. Pitt, for some reason, I don't care how good Louisville is. Pitt always gives them trouble. It's at Pitt. And from what I've seen out of Louisville right now, I've got to go with Pitt.
I'm going to take the Cards in that. It's against my nature, but I'll take the Cards in that.
You'll have a lot more friends than I will after this podcast. Then Ohio State at Washington, and I got to go with Ohio State.
Yeah, a couple years ago, this would have been a top 5 matchup. But, the Ohio State's, after that Texas game, has played a couple easy games. And, going out on the West Coast, it could be a little dicey, but I do think Ohio State wins that game by at least a couple touchdowns. Yeah. But then the SEC, Jimmy, has got some huge matchups
that mean a lot too.
Start at 3:30.
Well, we got LSU at Ole Miss, and that is a game that I really have trouble picking one or the other. And I'll tell you why. Lane Kiffin is starting another quarterback. He's going to start Chambliss instead of his other quarterback in that game. So he's starting a new quarterback. I don't know why the change. They didn't exactly say. He didn't say, but he decided to go with him. But I'll be honest about it. LSU, that Clemson win that they had earlier in the season.
It's not as shiny now as it was once.
It is dull. It is very dull.
They didn't really win too impressively against Florida either. So
I'm going with Ole Miss.
Well, I'd say Ole Miss last week. I kind of put them on alert a little bit. I said Tulane coming in there, it was a game that they better be ready for, and they were ready. I mean, they laid it to Tulane, and that surprised me. Not that they won, but that they won so easily. I thought that would be, not necessarily a 1-point game, but I thought it would be kind of a tighter game than that. But they pretty much dominated it. But I'm going to, I said at the beginning of the year, I think this might be Lane Kiffin's chance that he's kind of flying under the radar, and he could make the playoff this year. And
so you're going for Ole Miss?
I'm going to pick Ole Miss in this, playing at home. That LSU Ole Miss game is always a crazy game, though.
Yeah, it is.
It's always a crazy game. So,
and we got Auburn going to Texas A&M, and I'm going.
Well, who made that schedule up for Auburn? Back to back, at Oklahoma, at Texas A&M. Nobody did them any favors.
Well, I'll tell you one thing: it wasn't me.
Well,
but I'm going to go with Texas A&M because of being at home. That's a tough place to win.
It is a tough place, and Auburn's coming off a tough loss. I think Texas A&M played a nobody last week, and so they kind of got a rest. And so, I would love to see Auburn go in there and get a win, but I just have to see a hard time him going into College Station.
And then these next two games, folks. I mean, these are the
prime time games are
marquee games. Oregon at Penn State. Penn State's finally going to play somebody, Mike.
Well, it's about time, even though it's in conference, But they've had 3 weeks to rest up.
Yeah, and Penn State's going to have the whiteout going on. I don't know if that helps them or not, but there's going to be wearing white. But
I don't know. Penn State, they're playing at Penn State.
I think it'll be a good game, but I'm going with Penn State.
I'm going to choose Oregon in that.
All right.
I think Oregon's played a tougher non-conference, and that prepares you.
May be prepared.
The thing about it is I always say that, playing tougher opponents exposes your weaknesses, and that makes you better.
It also exposes your losses, too.
Well, maybe, but at the same time, when you play weak opponents and you kind of just lay it on them, you don't really expose your weaknesses that you need to work on. So,
and then my opinion, this is the best game of the week.
Well, based on the last 10 years of college football,
and I think this game has a lot of implications, especially.
You're talking about Alabama at Georgia.
And this game, Alabama needs to win this game, in my opinion.
I think that it would help DeBauer a lot, obviously, but I don't think it's necessarily a must-win for them.
Well, if they lose this one, that's 2 losses.
Yeah, but that's
and
only
one. The odds are they're going to lose another one.
Yeah, but here's the thing: that's only one loss in the SEC, and even a 2 or 3 team or a team with 2 or 3 losses, whoever wins the SEC is going to make the playoff. So if you only lose, you could probably the representatives in the SEC championship game are going to have at least 1 loss, maybe 2. So I think obviously it would go a long way to get a win at Georgia, and they beat Georgia last year at home. But
anyway, Mark, my friend, I know you're saying roll tide, but I'm going Bulldogs.
Yeah, I'm going to pick Georgia in this too, even though Georgia really hasn't looked like the same Georgia from the last 10 years.
I understand that, but
they're still Georgia.
Yep.
And then, of course, the biggest one, Jimmy,
UK,
the Cats
South
at the
Carolina.
Gamecocks.
And let me tell you, folks, South Carolina's got their quarterback back at North Sellers. He's a great quarterback. They've lost 2 in a row, got blown out by Vandy and lost to Missouri. And
really
they are
game.
hungry. They're going to be playing at home. And I'm going with Kentucky.
Really?
I think Stoops needs to win that game.
Well, you might need to. Doesn't mean
and
he's going
not only
to.
that, we're playing Cutter Bowley who I like as a
I
quarterback.
do like
I
that we're
think this
starting
kid
him.
is going to be one of the best in the SEC. Maybe not this year, but next year or the year after. But I like Cutter.
Well, we're coming off a bye, and Stoops has been traditionally horrendous off buys. I don't know
Yeah.
what it is or what he does, but we are always with Stoops. Most teams are better off a bye because you get 2 weeks to prepare for a team. But I'm hoping that will be a lot better than we have been off buys in the past. I don't know. This is one of those games where, again, I said Kentucky was going to be lucky to win 6 games. If Kentucky wins 6 or 7 games this year, I think it'd be one of the best coaching jobs that Stoops has done. And this is one of those games that they have a chance in.
Well, right now we've got a win record. We're 2-1.
Well, yeah. Well, the one good team we played, we lost to, even though we played them tough.
We did.
I'm gonna go out on a limb, even though I am speaking with my heart a little bit here, and I'm gonna pick the Cats here in a surprise. And I think that South Carolina's reeling a little bit, 2 losses in a row, but they're going to be playing like they got their backs against the wall, so that can go either way.
Yeah.
They could come out fighting and play great, or they could, as soon as something bad happens, they could get that, oh, here we go again. But I'm gonna pick the Cats in a little bit of an upset here, and be on the side of hoping. We'll see.
So, Mike, let me ask you something. Was there any good games in the NFL this past week?
Well, hey, real quick before we switch gears to the NFL, one thing I do want to say is that the SEC came out with their schedule, their 9-game schedule for the next 4 years.
For a conference?
For the conference. And just, Kentucky, every team has three teams that they'll play every year. So the 3 teams that Kentucky is going to play is Florida, South Carolina, and Tennessee, which I was really glad that they kept the Tennessee-Florida rivalries. I would have liked to seen Vanderbilt just because that's an easier win. It's closer, but they didn't. South Carolina is. I don't have a problem with that, but
who did they add? Who comes to Lexington next year, Mike?
Alabama does come to Lexington next, and LSU and Alabama.
We don't play Georgia.
No, we don't have to play Georgia. But I think the teams that we get at home next year are Florida, Alabama, LSU, and I can't remember the other one. But with the 9-game schedule, you get 4 home SEC games one year, plus and 5 road games, and then flip-flop. So we'll have 5 home games the next year.
Plus we'll have Louisville coming to Commonwealth. I mean, the Kroger Field, not Commonwealth.
I'll
anymore.
Always call it Commonwealth Stadium.
Yeah.
That's something, Jimmy, that I really thought that when they changed it, I had no problem with Kroger sponsoring, but it should have been Kroger Commonwealth Stadium.
I agree.
I just did not like it was Commonwealth. I still call it Commonwealth Stadium, but anyway.
So, did you see any good NFL games?
Yeah, a few things that stuck out. There was some big special teams plays this past weekend, especially the Eagles. And I have never seen an pro offensive lineman get absolutely just obliterated like the guy from the Rams. I don't even know what his name was, but he just got mowed over like he was a middle school player.
I mean, it lost the Rams the game. And kudos for Eagles defense, and they pulled out one.
But they blocked 2 field goals that game. And really, the Rams were really in control for most of that game and really should have won the game. But
they didn't.
They didn't.
Then the Jets and the Bucks. Of course, the Jets didn't win the game, but they had a blocked field goal and ran it back in too. Yeah. And
didn't end up. The Bucks had to go down and kick a field goal at the end to win it because of that. But it's some of these teams need to shore up their special teams or something.
But I tell you, the biggest surprise for me this past weekend was the Packers losing to the Browns.
Yeah, that surprised me a lot,
even though it was
too.
Played at the Browns, but the way they looked against Detroit. And then they didn't look too bad against Washington. But that one just surprised me.
I tell you the thing about Cleveland, though, is that
they've got a good defense.
They probably got the best defense in the league.
And
when you have a really good defense, it'll let you hang around in games, and then weird things can happen. So, even though that win, that does, because the Packers just looked the first 2 games. I mean, they looked lights out, and I really thought that they would take care of business there, but give kudos to the Browns. They pulled it off, but
the Lions, as bad as they looked in week 1 against the Packers, they looked very good which I have them picked to go to the Super Bowl. They looked good against the Baltimore. Of course,
Yeah.
Baltimore helped him a little bit with Derrick Henry fumbling in the fourth
Well,
quarter.
and that's a big thing. I mean, he has had really, you take away, especially the Bills fumble. He doesn't fumble that ball. I mean, the Ravens win that game. And right now, they're instead of sitting at 1-2, they're at least 2-1. And, that's just very, very un-Derrick Henry like, because he has been a workhorse. He never fumbled, and he's had 3 big fumbles. Now, the one last week didn't cost him the game, but the first week it definitely didn't help them. And then, I don't know if the Lions looked really good, especially their defense. Well, their offense looked great too. But yeah, Derrick Henry's got to shore that up. And of course, they got to turn around and play the Chiefs this week at the Chiefs. So one of those teams, the Chiefs or the Ravens, are going to start out 1-3.
Yep.
And
because the Chiefs won last week.
The Chiefs did win, but man, they didn't look very good. That was like two bad news Bears teams playing each other.
They've got a lot of offensive players off right now. Xavier Worthy, he's coming back. He'll be playing in the Ravens game. And then this will be their 4th game, so they only have 2 more weeks after this weekend, and they get Rashid back, their other wide receiver. So, like I said, if they can end up 3-3 at the first of the season, I think they'll make the playoffs. But boy, right now, I mean, you got to wonder about them a little bit.
Well, and you got to ask the question: is this the end of the Chiefs dynasty? Because if they start off 1-3, they're going to. I think, especially as good as the Chargers are looking, because the Chargers are looking really good. They're going to have a tough time winning the division. They've already lost to the Chargers. The Broncos are a lot better. Even the Raiders are a lot better.
So, who do you think between the Ravens and the Chiefs? Who do you think needs this game more?
I think the Chiefs need it more.
I think you're right. Because the Ravens, look at this. The Ravens, even if they start out 1-3, they can still win their division.
Well,
because the Bengals
lost Burrow, and that makes a big difference.
Pittsburgh, they're probably going to end up 500 or a little bit over.
The AFC West is looking a lot, which I would have thought before the season that wouldn't have been the case.
And the Browns. But on the other side, the Chargers, power rankings, they're in the top 5 in the NFL. Broncos, like you said, they're doing good, and the Raiders have improved. So their whole division got tougher. So I think this game is more important for the Chiefs. They are playing at home and everything.
Got to hold home court advantage for sure.
And then Bengals at Vikings. The Vikings defense just tore the Bengals up.
It was the worst 5 minutes of football I've ever seen at the end of the first half with the Bengals. They literally turned the ball over 3 times in about 1 minute.
Well, Browning had 2 interceptions in that game.
Well, I said last week that if the Bengals are going to have success, they're going to have to establish the running game to take some pressure off Browning, and they really haven't done that yet. But even with that, the Bengals were down 17-3. They made a couple defensive stands, and then they got the ball back with about 4.5 minutes left in the first half. They could have mounted a drive and got down there and got within a touchdown going into halftime, and it looked like, hey, this could be a ball game. And the wheels fell off, and the next thing you know, I mean, the Vikings are up 31-3 at halftime. And it was just an ugly 5 minutes of football. And, the good thing for the Bengals, doesn't matter if you win by or you lose by a point or you lose by 50 points. It all counts the same. So
I think this is going to be reversed from past years with the Bengals, where they come out and lost like their first 2. One year, their first 3 games.
Well, they got another tough
won
one.
2. They're 2-1.
Yeah. And they got to go to the Broncos this week on Monday Night Football. So,
but after week 3, there are 6 teams who are undefeated: the Eagles, the Bills, the Chargers, the Bucks, Colts, and 49ers. I do know there will only be 5 because the Eagles play the Bucks this week, which should be a good game.
Yeah, that should be a great game, to be honest with you. Yeah, I think that's going to be one of the best games of the week.
And then there are also 6 teams who have not won a game who are 0-3, and that's the Giants, Jets, New Orleans, Houston, Titans, and Miami. Now, I know Miami plays the Jets, so next week.
Who cares about the loser teams,
the
toilet bowl teams?
They do care
Let's
about
talk
it.
about the winners right now.
Let me tell you, there's a big difference. If you go 0-4, you're not going to make the playoffs.
Well,
you go 0-3.
You're 0-3. You're not making the playoffs.
You can
most likely
still
anyway.
make it. There's a big difference. But
I'll be willing to bet you some money right now, Jimmy. Not one of those 0-3 teams makes the playoffs.
It's illegal to bet on our show.
But I will say this: the team that is 3-0 that to me is the big surprise is the Colts. The Colts have looked lights out, man. I mean, not only have they have won convincingly. Daniel Jones looks like a different quarterback, a different total person out there than when he was with the Giants.
It makes you think about the Giants coach. Yeah, well,
the Giants coach just when his first year, I think they made the playoffs and he looked.
Oh, he did. He looked great,
yeah,
but he hadn't done anything since. And he benched Russell Wilson this week.
Jackson Dart's going to get a chance
he's going to replace
get
Wilson.
Beat up with that offensive line now. Yeah. He's the next sacrificial lamb to go behind that offensive line. So we'll see what happens with him.
And before we get into games this week, I just want to tell everybody that the Hall of Fame list came out this week. And the two names that stick out to me there on it is Drew Brees, which I think he'll get inducted this year.
First ballot Hall of Famer, no
doubt.
And
Larry Fitzgerald, which I think he'll get inducted this year too.
He should, definitely.
And then we still got Eli Manning. This is his second year. I think they ought to go ahead and put Eli in there.
Well, that was the big controversy last year is that he wasn't a first ballot Hall of Famer. He'll definitely get in at some point. But, if you look at his overall stats, he does have the 2 Super Bowl wins, and, he's got a pretty long career, and his name's Manning.
And you got to remember that last Super Bowl win he got there with every game on the road.
Yeah.
He even went to the Pack Green Bay and won that game. And I remember their coach.
Was the year that the Patriots, a lot of people consider that the best team ever of all time, was undefeated going into the Super Bowl.
And Eli beat them. Yeah. But when they was up there at the Packers, I remember that coach. Daggone, his face looked like a cardinal red T-shirt that day. I never seen a man's face that red.
But, Eli Manning, both times in the Super Bowl, beat Tom Brady.
Yeah, that's true.
Both times.
That ought to get him in the Hall of Fame.
You would think.
Anyway.
He kept Tom Brady from having, 9 Super Bowl rings instead of 7?
Yep.
So
we got a few games this week, folks. Well, we got a lot of them. They're all playing, as far as I know. Seattle's at Washington Thursday night.
Yeah, Seattle's playing at Arizona.
I mean Arizona. What did I say?
You said Washington.
Well,
they're not going to the capital, Jimmy.
All right, reverse that. Seattle is playing at Arizona, folks.
Yeah, that's a big game for both those teams. Arizona had a heartbreaker at San Francisco. And
Arizona's without their top running back, Connor. He's out for the season.
I don't think that's going to matter to me. I think Arizona will get a win. The running back position in the NFL is not as important as it used to be.
What? Saquon Barkley won the daggone MVP last year.
Well, but he's a different breed. I mean, Saquon Barkley is the best running back.
I think the running back.
What I'm saying is that with the way that the offenses are more pass oriented, it's not like back in the 70s when you had a big back that was your whole center of your offense. So losing a running back is not as detrimental now as what it used. Now, you lose to Saquon Barkley, that's a different story. I mean, he's not only is he a great running back, but he's just a great all-around player. He's a great receiver too, and
Okay, well, I'm going with Seattle.
I'm going with Arizona, so I'm going to disagree with you on that, Jimmy. I'm disagreeing with you on that one. I'm going with Arizona.
We should disagree every once in a while. Minnesota at Pittsburgh.
I'm going to take the Vikings. The Vikings defensively looked really good, and Carson Wentz was a lot better than what I thought he would be, but I think I'm going to take the Vikings, and plus I hate the Steelers. So,
well, I don't hate the Steelers, and I'm
a Bengals fan, so I've got to hate the Steelers.
I'll be honest. If this is Aaron Rodgers last year, I want to see him make the playoffs. I'd like to see him win a game in the play. I wouldn't mind seeing
that old man off on his horse and send him into retirement.
Old man this old man likes himself, so. Anyway,
well, he's a young man compared to you. He's old for the NFL, but he ain't that old.
Yeah,
but he can still play though. I'll give him that.
Washington at Atlanta.
Well, the Falcons really let me down last week. They went in and laid an egg at Carolina.
30 to nothing.
You can never figure out the Falcons. As soon as you try to give them a little bit of credit and try to give them hey, they're going to be pretty good, they always just do something horrible. And I picked them to win that division this year, and now I'm starting to regret it.
Washington, their quarterback
Jaden Daniels is still out.
Well, it's up to the doctor. That's
up to the doctor.
Well, if the doctor says he can play this weekend, he'll play.
Well,
that come from Washington. So I'm just giving you the
If he
information.
plays, then I would definitely take Washington. But
My insider report told me that.
did you talk to the doctor?
Well, I didn't talk. I talked to my insider reporter.
Okay.
And then, New Orleans at Buffalo.
Oh,
I don't think
yeah.
we need to say anything else
Yeah,
there.
the Bills are going to win that.
Cleveland at Detroit.
Yeah, Lions, go
Yeah.
ahead. Well, even though Cleveland did pull off the big upset last week, but that's playing at Detroit.
Yeah.
But like we said, they've got a strong defense, and that can always
Yeah,
keep you in a
but,
game.
Detroit-
Old man Joe Flacco could pull it off again.
Detroit looked good.
Yeah, I think the Lions win at home there.
And you got two winless teams. Tennessee at Houston.
Well, Tennessee 0-3 is not a surprise, but Houston 0-3 is definitely a surprise.
That is a big surprise this year. I mean,
well, it just goes to show you that in the NFL, the margin for error is so small. I mean, you literally can take any team that's in the playoffs and say, okay, take 5 plays and turn them around, and you could go from a team that goes 11-6 or 6-11. And
but I tell you what, I do like Tennessee's quarterback, Cam Ward. I think he's going to be a good one.
I think he will be good. But I'm going to take Houston. I do think that they'll bounce back. They just don't have enough pieces in Tennessee yet.
We got Carolina at New England, and I'm going with New England. I think Carolina is still patting themselves on the back after beating the Falcons 30-0, and it's at New England.
Well, I'm gonna take the Panthers in that.
I don't know why. I don't even know if our audience could even hear you.
Panthers.
You're taking the Panthers.
I'm going to be in Hilton Head next week, Jimmy. So I'm going to take the South Carolina team.
We will have
the North Carolina team. The Carolina team.
The Chargers at the Giants, and I got to go with the Chargers.
Chargers are looking good, man.
Jim Harbaugh's got that team rolling.
Yeah.
Philadelphia at Tampa Bay. This is a good game. This is a real good game, and
Philadelphia has not really been impressive offensively so far.
You look at Tampa Bay though. Baker Mayfield has had to go down and make a winning touchdown or a winning field goal with under a minute to go.
I love the way Baker Mayfield plays. I love his energy. I love his.
So you're taking the Bucs?
No, I'm not taking the Bucs.
Oh, you're taking Philadelphia.
I'm taking the Eagles in that. Yeah, I think the Eagles will have a breakout in terms of their offense. I think that they will finally get on track offensively.
I'm taking the Bucs, and I'll tell you why. Philadelphia has trouble with the Todd Bowles defense, and that's who is defense for Tampa Bay. So I'm going with the Tampa Bay.
I think Jalen Hurts has a big game.
Well, we disagree on that.
I think Jalen Hurts is they're going to get on track offensively. So.
And here's another good game: Indy at LA Rams. Danny Dimes versus Stafford.
Colts have looked really good, but I don't know, going all the way out to the West Coast and
the Rams
getting a win over the Rams.
Against,
if they get that win, man, you really got to start talking about them as being one of the top teams in the NFL. You got to start
talking about Danny Dimes as being the most valuable player this year too.
Now, let's not get too crazy.
Well, I'm not. I'm just saying though, if they go 4-0,
comeback player of the year.
You got to start talking about it. So, and Jacksonville at San Fran. I know you like Jacksonville, but I
still like the Jaguars. I picked them to be my surprise team this year. I'm not backing off of that. I think they'll go in. San Francisco's got some injuries, and I think Jacksonville will go in and get a little bit of an upset there.
All right, and then Baltimore.
The big one.
Baltimore, Kansas City.
I'm going with the Ravens. I just don't. The Chiefs have just not looked very good so far. I don't know if they just, like I said, their dynasty is kind of coming to an end. Even though the Ravens are 1-2, they still look really good. They really should have beat the Bills.
Kansas City, I'll tell you what, the Ravens, their defense is not looking good right now. Chiefs' defense is what's been keeping them in the game.
Chiefs' defense is really what's won basically been their staple the last 2 years. I mean, I'm going to go offensively, they haven't been that great.
I'm going with Kansas City on this one.
Well, I think if it was the Kansas City of the last couple years, I would take them. But I'm going to go with the Ravens there. I think the Ravens are going to come in there and get a win. I just like their overall team better and the way that they're playing, even though they have the same record. So it's a huge game for both teams, though, because, like I said, whoever starts off 1-3, and kind of what we talked about, I think it's a bigger game for Kansas City than it is Baltimore because I think that their schedule and their division is tougher. So, and with Burrow being out now, the Baltimore is probably going to get 2 wins there against the Bengals that otherwise they could have easily lost 1 or possibly 2 of those. But
all right, we got Chicago at Las Vegas.
You know, I'm going to take the Bears there. The Bears pulled off the win for me last week. I think I was the only one that picked the Bears last week. You picked the Cowboys.
I did pick the Cowboys.
Which that was your mistake, picking the Cowboys.
Well, I mean, I didn't lose anything. I didn't put any money on
Yeah,
it.
well, you know, you lost bragging rights, though.
Well, I mean, yeah, okay.
No, the Bears, they're an enigma because they look great at times, and other times you're like, what? They're just do Bear things.
I think at the end of the season you'll see the Bears come on, and then
Probably when they're out of the playoff hunt.
And then Sunday night, Micah Parsons comes back to Dallas, and
I think he'll put on a show. I think he'll be in Dak Prescott's grill
the
whole night.
You know, it wouldn't surprise me if Dallas doesn't win that game, but I got to go with the Packers.
Yeah, CeeDee Lamb's out. Yeah.
Dallas may have the worst defense in the NFL right now.
Well, Dallas has probably got the worst overall ownership and the decisions that they make. And to let a player like Parsons go was just travesty to me. I just don't see you. You don't let it. He is a special kind of player. He's like a Lawrence Taylor type of player, and I just think that was really stupid for them to let him go. And I think he's going to come back. He's going to make a statement. He's going to be in Dak's grill all night, and I think the Packers are going to be angry after that. I think they were looking ahead this week, thinking, we're playing the Cowboys at the Cowboys next week on Sunday night.
Dallas is probably angry too. With what Chicago did.
I don't care. The Cowboys can be angry all they want. They just don't have it together.
And then Monday night, it's sort of like, folks, we got 2 games Monday night.
You got the toilet bowl first.
If you want, both
the Jets and the Dolphins.
Games, if you want to go to bed early, you probably can. But Jets at Miami, I'm going to take Miami.
Oh, yeah, I think. Well, especially if Fields is out. Is he still out?
Fields is going to play, from what I understand.
If Fields is back, then that gives the Jets a chance.
Yeah.
But I'm probably going to take Miami too.
Okay.
But then
Cincinnati at Denver.
The nightcap.
Cincinnati
Bengals at the Broncos.
You know, Browning, I watched him when he came in a couple games last year, and he looked good. He also looked good when he came in when Burrow got hurt. But that last game, man, I can't get that out of my mind, how bad he looked. Well, but anyway, I'm going to go with Denver.
It's hard to pick the Bengals with how bad they played last week. But, the Denver's coming off 2 losses, too. They haven't necessarily looked great. They really should have beat the Colts. But I'm gonna pick a surprise here, probably again from my heart. And I'm going to pick the Bengals to bounce back. I think they'll have something to prove. And
well, I hope you're right, but yeah.
You're probably going to be the right choice
on
that.
No, but you don't know that. It's NFL. They still have good players. Everybody has to realize, even though you might have a winless record right now, you still have good players on your team.
You do. Yeah.
And it's like that movie
and
without Pacino.
But I think
any given Sunday.
But the thing is, and I've said this for 2 weeks, they need to get the running game going. They need to get that figured out because they have not got Brown going at all.
Yeah.
And they need to get the running game going to take pressure off of Browning. And, not only that, but it allows them to get those 2 great receivers they have. If they can sit there and shut down the run and not have to worry about the run, they can lay off and cover those receivers a lot easier. So I don't know. I don't know. I just have a feeling that the Bengals will play well, but I said the same thing last week and picked them to beat the Vikings, and that didn't work out. So
but anyway, folks, it's another great weekend of sports coming up. NCAA football, NFL. Don't forget the Ryder Cup starts Friday. Just a great weekend coming up.
Yep. It's going to be a fun one, Jimmy.
Yep.
Looking forward to it. So, you know what that means, though? We're at the end of our NFL. That means it's time for
Jimmy's Gripe.
Jimmy's Gripe of the Week.
Yeah.
What's your gripe of the week this week, Jim?
Well,
what are you flaming about this week?
Well, I wouldn't say flaming, but it is something that bugs me. I watch ESPN, which, if anybody knows what that means, it stands for Entertainment Sports Programming Network. They changed, that used to be what they put up on the screen back in 79, I believe. And then so they changed it to ESPN. But if you are retired like me, and you get up Monday through Friday, and you start watching, well, I do get up. If you don't get up and watch Sports Center at 7, you don't hear about any other sports because you have Get Up that comes on, you have First Take that comes on, and then Pat McAfee. And it seems like Greeny, Stephen A., and Pat, all they want to do is talk about football. When the NBA starts, they'll talk about basketball, but mainly it's football. So both of those programs are 2 hours, and I think Pat's maybe an hour. That's 5 hours. You only get to hear about football. Now, I love football, but gosh, dang, boys, you got the Ryder Cup playing in your backyard in Farmingdale, New York this week, and Greeny, you didn't bring it up. Stephen A., you don't like golf. You didn't bring it up.
He's never hit a
Now,
golf club
Pat
in his life.
McAfee did have DeChambeau on there, but I don't think it was on there when it was on ESPN because after his program shuts down on ESPN, it goes to YouTube and he has. But I mean, the Golf Channel, I understand. You got the Golf Channel; they talk about only golf. You got the NFL channel; they talk about the NFL. You got Major League Baseball; they talk about baseball. You got the NBA; they talk about basketball. That I understand, but ESPN stands for Entertainment Sports Programming Network. That means you're supposed to talk about sports. Both of y'all, Stephen A. and Greeny, you could have brought up the Ryder Cup. If you're not going to do that, then I say we change your name to FANE, football and nothing else. But let's not have a total sports program. And that's my gripe of the week.
It's all about ratings, Jimmy. Uh-oh, you know what this means? Jimmy's getting up. He's got to pee. That's the end of our show. So thanks for tuning in again this week. Hope you enjoyed the show. And if you haven't subscribed to our channel, please subscribe to our channel. And we'll be back next week to talk about the results of the Ryder Cup and all these big games this weekend. And a lot of good stuff. We're actually going to talk about the WNBA next week. I'm actually going to get to go to the WNBA semifinals this weekend. So I'll have some things to say about that because next week they'll start their finals. But anyway, it's been a great time and look forward to seeing everybody else next week. This has been the Two Micks. Peace out.